Hello, good evening, everybody. It is 8 p.m. Just as I promised on Monday, the March the 4th. Today marks the first day of Dental Assistant Recognition Week. So happy Dental Assistants Day to all the dental assistants out there, nationally and internationally. Happy days. Today we're going to be talking about today's episode number 46, by the way, day 46. And today we're going to be talking about something that I already talked about before briefly, but we're going to concentrate strictly on creating your own story. And this is how it looks like. So we're going to create our own story and we're going to embrace the pressure. Now, the reason why I decided to talk about this is because when you start doing things for a very long time, you start to get rid of that excitement at the outset when you first start something, and then you start getting a lot of pressure because you have to meet your own deadlines. And in order for you to meet your own deadlines, obviously that means sacrificing a lot of things and taking control of things that you probably didn't factor in to begin with. Just give me a second. Because as much as we want to plan, a lot of things do come up that they haven't planned before, and that's completely normal. But what we have to do is we have to adapt. We have to learn that we have to adapt. So we're going to go through this. We're going to fly right through this today. I'm going to try to make this very terse, very short, okay? Because I think the shorter the podcast, the more condensed it is, the more lessons that there are for you so that you can take them and you don't have to spend, a long period of time for you to digest all this stuff. So we're going to be talking about 4 different things with regards to creating your own story. And why it's important for you to create your own story is because there are 2 types of people in this world. One type of person is a person who literally just goes through by cruising, kind of just does what the usual people usually do is they get up, they go to work, come back, eat, sleep, they raise a family, they grow old, grandchildren, and then they pass on. That's basically what one category of people are. The second category of people are people who actually want to make an impact in the world. They say, no, I'm not going to be just another number. I'm not going to be just another body on this planet. I'm actually going to contribute to the point where when I leave, there's going to be a mark that's left in my space so that it's going to be hard for someone else to fill those shoes. And those type of people, obviously, those type of people are around 5%. But the majority of people are kind of just, they're just cruising along. Okay. And we talked about yesterday, satirically, we talked about how giving up is an option for those people that just want to be normal and just want to take things very easy. But we also understand that those that takes things easy, they don't actually improve. So that's why today we're going to be talking about how to create your own story, because if you're not happy with your life, you're not happy with how things are, that's probably an indication to you that something must change, that something's missing in the equation, and you need that spark. As Tupac once said, he said, I can't guarantee that I'll change the world, but I'll guarantee that I'll spark the brain that'll change the world. So let's spark our brains so that we can change the world together, one day at a time. Now, what does that mean? It means this. The first thing is that there needs to be some kind of mission. Obviously, this is something I didn't actually delete from the template. So ignore that part where it says presentations are tools that can be used as speeches, reports, and more. That wasn't supposed to be part of the presentation, but a mission. Now, after you create a mission, I'm going to go through this very quickly. How to create a mission. After you create a mission, it's actually very simple, but it's not easy. That is to be the hero of your own story. We're going to cover that as well, because you have 4 different options for you to be in your own story, in your own life. The third is to embrace the diamond formation of your life. Okay, we're going to talk about that too, and with regards to transformation and how you actually need the pressure. You need the pressure in order for you to transform yourself, in order for you to become something. Now we're talk about that very quickly. And lastly, we're going to take an action step for us to wrap all this thing together. And again, I am going to try to do this very fast, simply because I think that if I was you and I was listening to someone talking and I think that maybe he's going to say something that's beneficial to me, I want him to get straight to the point. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. Now the mission is this. The mission is that you cannot make your mission boring. Whatever you do, you cannot make it boring, because this is your life, and your life is full of whatever it is you want it to be full of. If you want it to be full of garbage and full of crap, then it can be that. It can be just that. And how you do that is by letting other people plan it for you. So you get up, you don't know what you're doing, you just go to work, come back, You don't know what you're doing after work. You don't know what you're doing on the weekends. Maybe you have something planned over the long weekend. Maybe you're going to meet with some friends, but it's kind of like, ad hoc, right? Just kind of like as you just pass along, you kind of just plan things as you go along. Now, that is the very boring way of doing things, right? It's a very reactionary way. It's not really a proactive way, as one of the books that I mentioned before, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where the author states that one of the first habits of highly effective people is for you to be proactive. Because if you're not proactive, you're actually just being reactive to what life's throwing at you, right? And then you become victimized to what happens to your life. You can't really actually take control because you have no plan. You're not actually executing on things, and then life just becomes very frustrating. And when life becomes frustrating, you feel like you're out of control. Then you start getting into this state of depression where you just feel like nothing that you do is good enough, and that no one's accepting you for who you are. And then you start thinking of these very, very weird things. You start doing very weird, strange things, and you start going into this rabbit hole that it's very hard to come out of. So in order for you to prevent yourself from coming out of that, from getting into that, the first thing is to come up with your own mission. Now, coming up with your own mission obviously is going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time, but it's really important for you to spend time doing that, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many hours, how many days, how many weeks. The really important part is for you to form a mission. Now, how do you do that? First thing you do is you brainstorm. You have to actually come and actually like brainstorm. And how do you do that? It's kind of like doing a research for any kind of research paper. You actually research different kinds of people, and you say, okay, well, this person did this person did, and you actually you literally research, and you're trying to connect with people on a metaphysical basis, because obviously they're not there for you to connect with. So you plan to, and you brainstorm based on two things: what you plan to accomplish, so what you want to do, the results you want to do in your life, so what you plan to accomplish, okay, which what we call is the goals. And the second is what things you want to be good at, which is what you want to become, who you want to be. Because who you want to be will ultimately, and what you want to accomplish, those two things, results and the becoming, the who you want to be, will ultimately form your mission. Because it'll drive you towards you becoming something and you achieving things. So if you want to be very strong at writing, then writing is something that you should become very good at. And how do you do that? Well, you have to write every single day. And what are things you want to accomplish? Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to write several books. Maybe you don't even want to write books. Maybe you just want to become a good writer, and you just want to be really good at the job that you currently have. But you want to be a good writer because good writers can speak properly, can articulate themselves well, can formulate an argument, and all that stuff. So they don't have to be related, but it's important for your own mission. And then comes the planning. And the planning we talked about before many times in previous podcasts, when we said, when you set deadlines, you set them, but then you work backwards, and then you create contingencies based on failures, based on projected failures. So you have a plan, and I suggest you do this for one day. Just take a day and say, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? And just plan it. Very simple. Like, don't make it complicated. I'm not talking right now, create your own life story. I'm just saying, take it one step at a time. Create something for tomorrow, right? Whatever you want. And just say, I'm going to do this tomorrow, or become this bit better by doing this tomorrow. Okay. And then see, okay, how are these things going to fail? Where are things that are going to fail? And then try to come up with more contingencies. If this fails, then I'm going to do this. If this fails, I'm going to do this, and get into the habit of doing things. So that's step number one, which is creating your mission. As it states here, do not make it boring. Whatever you do, don't make it boring. Now, the second thing is for you to be the hero of your own story. Now, often what we do when we create our own stories is that we do not look at ourselves as the hero of the story. We look at ourselves as just a passerby, kind of like the victim, right? But why would you create a victim story on your own story? This is your storyboard, right? You can do whatever you want on your storyboard. You can literally form it and shape it and color it in whichever way or form that you actually want. So the best thing, or the first thing that you have to do, is to assume complete responsibility for everything that's ever happened to you and that will ever happen to you in your life. Absolutely everything. Because as soon as you assume responsibility and you're like, look, it's my fault that it's raining outside. It's my fault that it's sunny. It's my fault that it's windy. If you are that fanatic in terms of taking responsibility, yes. I mean, if you want to be to that level where you're like, look, like even me being cold outside, obviously it's your fault. But I mean, like, let's say, God forbid, someone kind of just bumps you from the back. As you're driving, someone bumps you from the back. No big deal, nothing happens, but someone bumps you. Well, you take full responsibility for that. You're like, Dr. Spinetti, how could I take full responsibility for someone bumping me in the back? Well, you didn't have to drive on this road, did you? You could have chosen a different road. You didn't have to get out at that time. You could have gotten out earlier. You could have gotten out when no one was there, right? You could have gotten out much, much earlier. You could have slept earlier the previous day. It's always your fault. Always. No matter what happens in your life, no matter what situations that occur, no matter how time plays, it's your fault. Now, here's the power. And when you make everything your fault, the power is that you can change it. You can literally change everything. And yes, so once you adopt that and you're like, look, I can change it, then the frustration becomes, I don't know what to do, because you can do everything, anything. And then Michael Jordan said, I love tomorrow because anything's possible. No one actually knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody. People can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. You can predict you're going to wake up, you're going to go to work, and you're going to come back home, and you're going to eat, and then you're going to sleep at a certain time. You can predict that, but no one knows that for 100% with certainty. Nobody. They say there's only two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. That's it. There's nothing else that's certain. So not even tomorrow is certain. So if tomorrow is completely uncertain, why not take complete responsibility and become the hero of your story? And as the previous slide said, be the hero of your story as opposed to being the victim. Okay, because the victim, no one likes the victim. The victim just blames everything on everyone, doesn't point the finger to themselves. So today you're going to point the finger to yourself. Okay, all right, moving on. Diamonds. This is probably going to be my favorite slide. Okay, because in order for diamonds to form, now check this out. If you actually connect with this, like metaphysically, if you actually connect with this slide, this will by itself kind of, if it doesn't change your life, maybe it'll change your week, or maybe change tomorrow. Maybe it'll change the next 10 minutes. Whatever it is, it's going to change something. Okay. So how do coals become diamonds? Well, they become diamonds with an incredible amount of heat. Okay. I'm actually going to pull up the actual figure of how a diamond forms, because it's very impressive. At a depth of 120 kilometers in Earth, 120 kilometers. So you can imagine how much pressure coal must go under, and the temperature is between 900 to 1300 degrees Celsius. We're not talking Fahrenheit. We're talking Celsius. At an incredible pressure for an incredible long period of time. And then the diamond forms. Then that coal, the structure of it, forms into diamonds. But think of the pressure, the time, and the heat. Now, if you really take that and embody that into your own kind of life and your own system, you're like, okay, obviously you're not going to be living billions of years or millions of years, obviously. But the philosophy here is that in order for something to go from coal, which is not very valuable, it's not very valuable. Coal's everywhere, right? But diamonds are so rare. Naturally occurring diamonds. I'm not talking about synthetic ones. Naturally occurring diamonds, they are so rare. And the reason why they're so valued is because they're rare. So in order for you to become a rare diamond, which by the way, you would be the only kind of diamond of yourself because there's nobody else like you. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but your DNA is the most unique DNA in the history of mankind and will be forever. Nobody will ever have your DNA copied, ever. Okay, ever. Okay, unless they figure it out, then that's a different story. But what I'm talking about is, and actually I would argue that it's actually impossible because DNA is formed with epigenetics, which is, circumstantial. So it really depends on environment, and you can't replicate environment and DNA at this exact same time, So your DNA and who you are is unique. So you're going to become that unique diamond. In order for you to become that unique diamond, pressure, heat, which means like a lot of discomfort and just sweat. Just think of heat. You're in heat. I'm not talking about you're sunbathing. I'm talking uncomfortable, sweating, things are just icky. That's what I'm talking about. Pressure, heat, time. Pressure, heat, time. Take away the pressure, no more diamonds. Take away time, no more diamonds. So same thing with your life. You have to endure pressure. Okay, it's going to be uncomfortable. You have to do things that are going to cause heat, right? So when you get yourself in a situation where it's very uncomfortable, your face flushes, or you just feel like your ears are getting hot, or just something feels uncomfortable. That's heat, right? Internal heat, like something's boiling, your adrenaline pumping, something. It's like your fight or flight mechanism is kicking in. It's like saying, get out, right? And this is where you stop and you're like, all right, no, I got this. You control your breath. You're like, no, I got this. And you do this over and over again for a long period of time. Guess what? That's right. Become a diamond. And last but certainly not least, now that you have this information, last but certainly not least, now is the time for you to take the action of forming your story from your mission to being the hero to enduring everything you need to endure, and to write your own eulogy, to write your own story. Let's literally write it down. Because if you were to take that practice and just write down your story, in terms of, like you see yourself, I have to say this, okay, because this is part of the podcast, but you see yourself, you're dead. Okay, you see yourself dead. What are people going to say? What positive things are people going to say about you? Write that down. Write down what things are people going to say if you die a year from now, or if you die 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, right? Write down the story. Exactly. What kind of contributions did you make? How many people did you help? Who did you help? And all this stuff. Why is that important? It's important because it's your life. It's important because you don't want to live a boring life. You don't want to live a life that when you wake up, you don't feel like a sense of purpose. You don't feel like there's anything for you to do. You don't feel like there's any charge, any spark. You don't feel like you're helping anybody. There's a lot of people that need help. A lot. Specifically, the youth. They need a ton of help. Think about yourself when you were young. I mean, if you're young, think about yourself when you're a bit younger, right? So if you need a purpose, the biggest thing is for you to say, who am I going to help? Who can I help? And you'd be surprised with how much your value is compared to someone else who is younger than you, or someone else who hasn't done what you've done. Like, let's say you have a certain amount of education, or you've gone through certain hardships. That value, that has a lot of value that a lot of people don't have. And you can actually help a lot of people move in a certain direction to help save them a lot of time and headache, and even get them out of this very deep, dark place that maybe they're in. Okay, so write your own eulogy. This is the time for you to take maybe 5 minutes. Heck, take a minute and just write something that you think that people are going to say. As soon as you pass away, these are the things you're going to say. These are the things. I even write it as a joke. As a joke, say, hey, look, when I die, read this, right? And so they don't have to write it. You kind of just wrote it ahead of time. Okay, but in any case, whatever is going to pump you, juice you, get you to do this thing, just do it, and don't make it boring, baby. Make it nice and exciting. All right, folks, that's it. So what is your story? What are you going to do? How are you going to change? Think about it. You are the hero, not the victim. As always, stay well and keep smiling. Good night.